Hey everyone, Jeff Freeman here, and thanks for checking out this video. This one is just some of the highlights from our interview that we did with Jeffrey Irving, a theorist from the coast of Oak Island. The full 2-hour version of this show was recorded on November 20th, 2021, and can be seen anytime on YouTube at the channel JFree906. Sit back and enjoy these highlights.
This is Robert Clotworthy, the narrator of The Curse of Oak Island. And I have a question for you. Could it be that you are listening to The Curse of Oak Island and Beyond live stream?
Yes, indeed, you are listening to The Curse of Oak Island and Beyond live stream. I am your host, Jeff Freeman, and today, John Edwards in the co-host chair there, and I are hosting our very special guest, Jeffrey Irving. Jeffrey, welcome to the show.
Hey, guys. Hey. Good to see you again. John, nice to see you. Jeff, always a pleasure. Great to be here.
This is another one of those that I've been so excited for, and I knew John would be the perfect person to do this with because of his expertise and his research. Kind of coincides with what you do, so I knew it would be perfect. And it already in our pre-show meeting, folks, it has been very lively already. So you're in for a treat this afternoon on this show. Okay. I tell you what, Jeffrey Irving has got a lot of different things he's going to be talking about this afternoon. And we're going to get started with the very first thing, which is you started an Oak Island library on Facebook. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it was, you buy one book, then all of a sudden you got to buy another book.
Yeah, okay. I see Punch back there. Yeah.
Yeah. I started my little experience with this whole thing about 18 years ago, actually. And I thought I had a simple story to tell, which is, the book I'm writing. And it's called The Ark of the Covenant and the Quest for the White Stone. And the more I researched, the bigger the story became. Mm-hmm. Okay, I had a couple little things. I kind of had the ending first. And then it was to try and research, to disprove theories, justify theories, and it just mushroomed, gigantic. And it's kind of the same thing with the Oak Island mystery. Now, I've said this many times to many people. My book is not about Oak Island. It features Oak Island. Mm-hmm. But the more I got into the Oak Island story, I realized just how phenomenal this mystery has become. We look at the show, I was on a century ago in season 3, right? You know what I mean? Like, we're in season 9.
Yeah.
Who would have thought, right?
I know, right?
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And in all my research, I would just, I heard of this article, so I have to go chase it down. Oh, what a brilliant article. Well, now that collection of articles is, 50 plus. I think I'm closing in on like 55.
Wow.
Okay. Different magazine articles. And they're all written right from 1893, the oldest one I have.
Wow.
Clean through. You know what I mean? 1905, 1906. So it is so interesting to get a perspective in the moment. There's always the line on the show, and it comes up continuously: respect the mystery, right? Respect the mystery. When you read these articles that are in this Oak Island library, and by the way, it's free to join. Facebook, yep. Oak Island.
I'm going to bring up a picture of it here real quick. Sure. It's the front page of it. Yeah. I am a member of it, and I suggest that you all follow this or join, because it's really, really interesting stuff. And I was going to say, too, real quick, that John Edwards and I did an IDK talking about some of the old articles. And then when I got onto your library, I saw you actually had many of the ones, or more, obviously, than what we did. But we did find some of the same ones. It was really cool.
Yeah, it's been a long time collecting, and it's certainly been fun. Some articles are better written than others. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's some brilliant work in there, and just you really respect the mystery when you respect just how seriously people took it back then.
Yes.
It wasn't just a bunch of guys out with shovels.
Right.
You know what I mean? It started that way with, the three of them way back. But over the years, people have sunk their lives into this. You know what I mean?
It's very true.
I'm going to talk about, Dan Blankenship for a minute, because he's been there a long time, was there a long
There's
time.
a picture of him right there. Yep.
Right? Exactly. And I'm not going to tell you which article I'm going to read from because I want you to find it yourself, of course. But I'm just going to read this paragraph as quickly as I can because
All right.
to me, it speaks to the respect of the mystery. Okay. That night I have, senior citizen now.
I got
that
some
night,
too. Yeah.
I have a late dinner with Dan and Mrs. Blankenship. Except for the three of us at the corner table, the candlelit dinner room at the Longboat Inn is empty and about to close. I can see Oak Island and the causeway illuminated by moonlight out the window. Dan sits with his back to it. We have finished eating, and Dan has ordered us all a round of Drambuie. I had been hoping that he would disclose some secrets to me. Yeah, as if. Who was it that buried the Oak Island treasure? What was the treasure? What signs or evidence? But through most of the evening, Dan had been uncommunicative. When you first came to Oak Island in 1965, I began trying again. Did you ever have any idea that you'd still be working full-time on it 7 years later? Okay. This article was written in 73.
Wow.
Okay. No, and I wouldn't be here if I knew it. And that's the God's honest truth. What kept you here all this time then? It's not what you think, he pauses and sighs. Remember, I told you I've never been beaten. Well, that's no lie. I've never been beaten by any man, by any challenge. I've never lost at anything. Maybe I should have, but I haven't. But Oak Island's not that. It's not like climbing a mountain that's never been climbed. I'm not up here doing it just to see if it can be done. I'm not still here because of the challenge of something unknown. Now, here is the respect part. I'm here because I think I know. I think I know what's down there, and it's grander than anything anyone has imagined.
Wow.
If I'm right, it's grander than any theory anyone's put forward. If I'm right, it's so grand, it puts every other theory way out in left field. And it makes every other theory look insignificant.
Wow.
Okay? Now,
Wow.
he's speaking from the heart.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a couple other questions. It says, I didn't say that. Not quite. Not quite. I won't tell you my theory, but I will tell you I placed the date of the works 100 years earlier than anyone else does. The earliest anyone has it is 1630.
Wow.
Now think. It was 1620 when the Pilgrims arrived. By 1630, there was activity all along the coast.
Yep.
And not much escaped attention. But if you go back 100 years, who were the only people around? Okay? So when you think about that, he's absolutely true. Mm-hmm. How can you dig a hole in the 1630s without somebody knowing about it?
That's really neat. And that's right from Dan Blankenship. So
right out of his mouth.
Cool.
Who was it? The Spanish, he said. The Spanish. 1530-ish, right? Mm-hmm. They'd have fleets of 10 or 12 ships bringing treasure up and across from the Caribbean and the Americas. And during the summer, they take the northern route for the same reason anyone goes north in the summer. They leave the hurricanes behind.
Ah, very true, yep.
And by coming up this way, you see what I'm getting at?
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, would they bring it all across back home? Wouldn't you think, if you were the commander of one of those fleets, of stashing some of the treasure for yourself? Wouldn't it be easy in a fleet of 10 ships to say 5 were lost in a storm?
Oh, yeah.
Wouldn't you think maybe you could come back for it and live like a king? Mm-hmm. They had the labor and they had the ships. And that's very important. We're going to talk about that later on. And then the last little thing from this article, when Mrs. Blankenship speaks up, says, I just don't think it was pirates. dear, I didn't say it was pirates because he's not referring to pirates. He's referring to, well, just anybody. Well, Ponce de Leon, he was one of the biggest rapers of the Caribbean there was as far as resources go. Okay.
Right.
Not still the right word, just in different context. At this point, the conversation began to enter a strange new realm. I told you, this is Mrs. Blankenship speaking. I told you all along who's down there, and I told you you're going to be the one to bring her up for me. Her. Well, dear, Dan began, I don't know about that, but, honey, I know you're going to bring her up. Well, she didn't say honey. I just said that. Just so you know that it's her.
Yeah, right.
I've had a feeling from the beginning she's down there, and I've told you all along that one of these days you're going to bring her up for me. Her, I asked Mrs. Blankenship. Who is she? The Blessed Virgin. Okay.
Wow.
The Sacred Virgin. That's going to be important later on.
All right.
You're not just going to dig a hole.
I agree. Yeah, we've talked
down
about
in the ground.
Yep.
Right? I mean, it makes no sense.
Nope.
It wasn't just a bunch of drunk pirates digging a hole in the ground to bury some loot. Now,
120
I'm
feet
not saying that didn't take place on different parts of the island.
Right, exactly. We talked about that too. Yep. Go ahead, John.
I was going to say, Jeff, and it's probably what you were going to say. The recent findings on Oak Island, I'm sure you've seen it, Jeff Irving, was the rose gold that they found recently, and the wood that dated from 1450, Jeff, to 1650, somewhere there.
Yep.
Which is the right time period that you're talking about. But what group do you attribute that?
Well,
you're in the age of exploration.
It's easy to label the group, if you want to call it, as Templars, Freemasons, Knights of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
I think they are all part of the group, but I think we're dealing with a very specific set of individuals. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's an old expression, and I believe it's American military, maybe not, American Navy, loose lips sink ships.
Yep.
Correct.
Okay? If you want to keep a secret,
you don't tell too many people.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. Yeah.
Shut up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, exactly. It's really not just that simple. It was funny because I was always trying to label. The first days of my research was like, who's the good guys? Who's the bad guys? And I go, okay, it's these guys. And it's like, well, no, that doesn't make sense. You know, it was the French king that persecuted the Templars. So the French can't be the good guys. And it's like, finally it dawned on me to separate monarchs, government, from the people. Okay, that was the first step. Okay, because there's always bad guys. There's bad Templars. There's good Templars in leadership in different parts of history. You know, the Templars, one of their biggest jobs during the Crusades were the peacekeepers. They were the ambassadors. They negotiated all the peace treaties. Right. And then you'd get one idiot come along and he'd get a little aggressive because he'd want to be more powerful. So then he'd attack people. Right? Yep. And here we are back fighting again. You know what I mean? So it's not about the bad guys aren't the people. The bad guys are the leaders in the specific day of the week because leaders change continuously.
Right.
Okay?
Yep.
So you're saying the bad guys are the institutions, not necessarily the leaders, correct? Like
exactly. So that's why it's hard to label.
You know.
That's where I was going with this. That's why it's hard to label. It's hard to say the group is the Templars, the group is the Rosicrucians, the group is the Freemasons.
Even though it bled into there.
There were probably all three of those groups involved in the group. But to me, it's the group. There's a passage in the back of Washington Irving's book, who wrote the first autobiography of Columbus. And this is about the trial of Columbus. He was put on trial. One, he was charged with collaborating with the Portuguese. Okay. They found out that he actually sailed under the Portuguese banner up to Iceland. So they were kind of thinking of him as a fraud at the time.
Well, we were kind of talking about him being a double agent. I know John and I were kind of
playing both sides. Same thing. Okay. So this is the trial of Columbus.
You said it. You mentioned it earlier. You go on Oak Island and you're in front of a camera for 4 or 5, 6 hours. Gretchen went through the same thing. So report. And then when it's all said and done, you're on the show for about 5 minutes.
Yeah,
that.
7 minutes and 56 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. And so we're like, wait a minute, where's the rest of this story that we didn't get to hear? And that's why I wanted to do this, because it gives you guys the opportunity to now take a 2 hours or whatever you got and let's have it.
Yeah.
You know, get it out there.
I sat down with Dan one time. He was sitting there like he always used to in the museum. I said, and I knew he didn't know me from a hole in the wall, right? Because Dan was kind of hands off the show, right? Other than the specific shots.
Right.
And I said, well, what did you think about that, theory about Columbus coming up here? And the first words out of his mouth, it was classic, was, and I'm live. I'm doing a live thing on Facebook. Oh, I've done but hogwash.
No.
It's like, oh, really? I just spent all this time.
But that was his nature. And, and Dave's the same way. Dave says what he thinks.
Yep.
I always
he does. Yes, he does.
When I have presented, okay, leave it at that. When I have presented, I've always sat next to Dave. And Dave's great, right? Because you can just see him, in the corner of your eye going, oh, what a crock of crap.
Man.
I think is the Quran. And there's the great big Bible I brought with me. And I sat them down. Yeah, there's the Quran underneath my iPad.
Whoa,
okay. And I set them down on top of the table. And the first comment out of Dave's mouth is, oh, great. Here we go. There's the real story and the TV story.
Exactly. And on that note, we're going to wrap it up. Hey, folks, thanks so much for being here with us tonight. Or today, it's still daytime, today with Jeffrey Irving. And man, it's been wonderful. John Edwards, thank you so much for co-hosting here. Thank you, folks, for tuning in with us today and joining us on the show. We appreciate all your comments very much. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button out there on YouTube. All right. Have a great rest of your week. We will see you on Wednesday night at 7:30 for episode number 4. And we are going to have Jeff Irving back on the show. Bye-bye, everybody.